What's up, guys? So today on the podcast, it's Eugene and I talking. I'm down in Florida on some seminars, traveling, and we're going to talk about, since I'm down here doing seminars, we're going to talk about how to do seminars, how to get the most from seminars, which seminars you should go to, basically just all that kind of stuff regarding seminars. Because when I was younger, I used to not really like going to seminars because I felt like I would go to them, but I didn't really get much from them. And so, I made some adjustments on the way that I did things and some of the focus that I had on it. And, I got much more from them and actually made some impacts to my game. And so hopefully this episode is useful to you guys. As always, big thanks to our sponsors, Charlotte's Web. The CBD that I use, and it's not near me, but I take it with me anytime I go on my trips and everything else. So Eugene's got it there holding it up if you're watching the video. But whenever I travel, I use that. And I've got that, what is this? The CBD Medic cream? Yeah,
CBD Medic. It's cool. I like their stuff.
I like that stuff. They've got a back and neck pain relief ointment, and then they've got like a sports one. The sports one's like, it'll light you up. It's much stronger. The back and neck one's a little bit easier. But it's very helpful. So like when I'm traveling, and the crappy part about traveling is, one, the bed's typically not my bed, which means like it's not like Jess and I've got this really nice like firm foam bed that it's awesome. And so I'm traveling, and so it's a different environment. And a lot of times I'm training a bunch while I'm down here, and so I'll use this stuff on my neck or my back or my knees or something. If something gets sore, and then the CBD helps me fall asleep. It's like whatever there's in there that generates its what is the term? The overall sense of well-being, I think, is what I'm allowed to say. You know what I mean? But like it helps me, and so I take that stuff with me whenever I'm traveling. Just to, again, I found that it gives a positive benefit towards my training and dealing with like the different sports induced inflammation and everything else that comes from hard training and traveling and everything else. And so again, if you guys want to check it out for yourselves, head over to charlottesweb.com. Promo code is Jiu-Jitsu. Save 15% on the order. And again, my encouragement to you, as always, is to try it out for a month. Buy one of the products, see what you think, see if you like it, see if it gives you a positive benefit, and then just kind of roll from there. And big thanks to Matt over at Epic Roll. Matt sent me some gear recently that I'm going to test run. So in the upcoming rolling videos and stuff like that, you'll probably see me rocking his new shorts out. I'm excited to try because he changed like the Velcro stuff, right?
Yeah, there's no Velcro, and like they actually are kind of stretchier. I really I've worn them around, man. They're really nice. I enjoy. I just wear them around because they're comfortable. I was wearing them just randomly, walking around the house.
Wearing them after you get out of the shower.
Dude, they're comfortable. Like the other ones, like I felt like for me, they felt a little more, just felt a little more rigid, but they were still nice. And I use them to train in, but like these feel more comfortable to me.
That sounds like me. I bought a gi before I was like, I wasn't even training jiu-jitsu at the time. I knew I was going to train jiu-jitsu, but I bought a gi, and I had like a really nice gi, and I remember just putting it on and thinking it felt so cool to have it. And I was just like sitting around the house, just in my gi, just like a bathrobe, just didn't even have a white belt. I was just like laying around in it,
Yeah. You're such a goofball.
Well, I knew I was going to train, but I didn't know all the details to it, like I said. So I knew I was going to. But but if you guys want to check out some of those new shorts that he has, again, I'll do a test run on, and Eugene loves them, and I'll give him my thumbs up or thumbs down. But I'm going to test run some of his new gear, and I'll let you guys know how it goes. But if you want to check out any of his stuff, along with his training gears, t-shirts, everything else, because you guys know I'm a fan of his t-shirts, epicrollbjj.com. Promo code is Jiu-Jitsu, and save 15% on the order. And then our last sponsor for the day is Submission Nutrition. So he approached us with some stuff. It's like overnight oats. And I was asking him, like, what made you want to come up with this? And he said that he was at a competition, and he just didn't really like it. If any of you have been to a competition, if you guys do compete anytime in the near future, if you've never competed, make sure you bring snacks. Because finding good food to eat while you're competing or while you're at a tournament is generally pretty hard. Typically, the only thing that you can find is like an acai bowl booth. And who knows what that's going to be like with COVID, just because I'm sure that like, COVID binds to the acai, like it just hangs on to it.
Wait, is that a real thing?
No, it's not a real thing. I like I'm getting on a rant, like the theater of what's okay and what's not okay. Right. Like,
sometimes depends on where the seminar is. They will you'll get like cheese nachos, like cheese dip and all that.
Oh
And you definitely don't want that like
no,
between training. Like, oh, it would be like so heavy.
not
But they've
unless
had
you.
that, like they've had them like at convention centers. That's where some of the tournaments
Yeah,
in Louisville used to be, and like they'd have like the food like they would serve at like
yeah,
a
concessions.
basketball game. Yeah, it
Yeah,
was terrible.
it's awful. Yeah, so you get in there and you're gonna you're gonna feel sick. And so he came up with some different things, and his main product is a thing of overnight oats, and he's got some really tasty flavors. I'm a big fan of the mountain muesli and then the pineapple coconut.
Yeah, it's good.
If you like a little something sweet, the pineapple coconut's good. And then the mountain muesli it's not as sweet, but it's still sweet because it's got apple chunks in it. But it's tasty. It's really well done overnight oats. So if you want to check his stuff out, you can go to submissionnutrition.com. Promo code is Jiu-Jitsu. Save 15% on the order. And again, he made the stuff so this way, it comes in these. I don't know if he has it. I'm sure it probably does, but it has like the little bowls. You can put them in there, and then you put water, almond milk, or whatever you want. Sit it in the fridge for 8 hours, and then you can take it with you. Eat it cold, and it's an easy snack to eat. And again, if you're not really a breakfast person, like Jess isn't really a breakfast person, and so she's been eating the overnight oats a lot, where she can have that in like a protein shake, and it's not too heavy on her stomach, and then she can go about her morning. Whereas me, like I'm a big breakfast person, so I'm like eating eggs and then the overnight oats and everything else, and she can just have like a protein shake and just kind of roll with it. And then if you guys want to support the podcast directly or check out some cool stuff, you can go to the Patreon at patreon.com/the Jiu-Jitsu podcast, along with all the different stuff that we have on there. We've got a lot of content. It's so I should actually go through and catalog, like look through all the stuff that we have, because we've been doing it for so long. There's just so much stuff trapped in there. We also have a weekly or bi-weekly most of the time Zoom meeting where I meet up with people and just kind of chat. And again, you can kind of chat with me directly that way for the second tier price. But again, it supports the podcast directly, and there's a lot of cool content in there. And for less than with like the first tier, I mean,
23 cents a day.
23 cents a day. And honestly, if you wanted to let's say if you wanted to divide it up by the number of videos, there's at least 200 videos in there.
There's a lot, and
there has to be at least 200.
They're categorized like there's a couple of seminars. There's seminars. There's end of class. Like you do some technique instruction. Chad does some stuff, technique instruction. There's
some rolls and everything else.
Some rolls, some narrated rolls. You've got
have we published the one with the old man tips yet?
Old man tips, not yet.
Okay.
But we did do Tales from the Grips Volume 1, which is
Tales
funny.
from the Grips Volume. Yeah, we'll have to do more of those. That was a fun one.
It was hilarious.
Yeah. So basically, if you guys are not know what we're talking about, I want to I have to start getting these stories down of like all these crazy stories that have happened at the gym, because there's so many crazy ones, and like someday I probably want to write a book on it because they're just so ridiculous. And so I've got to start getting them down now. And so if you guys want to like hear about some crazy gym stories, that's what the Tales from the Grip series inside the back of the Patreon is going to be about. Is basically the stories about all kinds of crazy people. And I think in that one I was talking about the dude who I can't remember which one I was talking about in that one.
You had there's one with like we had the Electric Cowboy. Is that what that bar is called?
Oh yeah. So like all the drunk guy coming over from the Electric Cowboy.
And then we've had that restaurant or that bar or whatever was like, you bring a lot of weirdos from over there. Like you had like the women that were like doing an all male review. They were going to an all male review and they were like watching you guys train. So that was in there. You had a Japanese exchange student there. Is that one in there? Okay, yeah. I don't know if it is. I think it is. Yes, you guys went out with a Japanese exchange student who was like jumping on cars.
So it'll be fun. So yeah, if you guys want to check that out, go listen to that one, and you can get that at the Patreon. And then lastly, guys, if you want to sort of if you want to hear what I've got going on in my brain, or get a first like anything that I promote, whether it be a seminar, a product, an event, anything, the first people that get like the first crack always goes to the to my Chew Crew email list. So if you want to join the Chew Crew email list, if you go to jiujitsu.net, there's a little button that says free ebooks. If you click on that button, you'll get a game plan ebook, a drilling ebook, along with a video that's included. You'll get a daily email from me, obviously, and then you'll get updates on everything that's going on. You can unsubscribe and keep the ebooks if you want to at any time. But that's that. So again, check all that stuff out we just told you. And with that said, guys, let's jump into the podcast. Right. So for you guys that are listening, I probably sound a bit different. The audio quality on my end is probably not as good. Eugene is he's at headquarters with the all the nice equipment, and I'm traveling doing some seminars down in Florida for the weekend, and so we wanted to test out some new software in the midst. So this way, after the debacle that happened with Sean on the podcast a couple weeks ago, we were like, all right, we need to like upgrade the software that we're using. So today we're going to talk about, since I'm on a seminar trip, we'll talk about seminars because I'll be honest, before I kind of went about them a certain way, I used to hate seminars. I didn't really used to like them very much. And but I did start to like them as I got a little bit older and understood how to maybe use them a little bit better. And so we'll talk about some of those ideas with you guys today. Since I'm just kind of in seminar mode.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And like, it's kind of interesting, like we've had some great seminars at the gym, really good ones. I remember the first one was Bernardo Faria was a great one that we had. And I've still used the stuff from that day. And then like every seminar we've had, like I've always picked up like little bits and pieces of stuff. Like I think that for me, like if you can pick up one thing that you can instantly implement in your game or can make an impact on your game, it could eventually lead to a bunch of other changes, a bunch of like lasting impact. I think like for the Bernardo seminar, he showed us kind of his bottom half game and using the lapel to come up. And that's been something that I use all the time when I'm rolling in that position for sure, especially in the gi, all the time.
Yeah, and at the Bernardo seminar, we had that private training session the day before, where he was showing some of his passing and his over/under passing, and kind of some of the details that he had with that, and that changed the way that I used that particular pass because I'd been using that over/under pass since I was a blue belt, and he gave some details that really helped me out to understand it a little bit better. And so I think that the idea of one is really important when it comes to a seminar because if you go to a seminar, depending on who runs it. I've been to seminars where it's been very like maybe 2-3 techniques and you just drill them. And I've been to other seminars where it's like, dude, we like probably did 12 techniques in a 2-hour period and you're just brain overload. Right. Mm-hmm. And either way, you want to just try to focus on at least one thing that you can walk away from there, because a lot of times those like when you learn something new and you bring it into your game, it's almost like a boat that's just floating downstream. And this is the way a lot of things are in life, right? Like when you have something that's impactful to you, it'll just kind of nudge you in one direction, just a few degrees. Now, in the beginning, that's not a big change. It's very subtle, right? And then down the road, maybe a year or two later, it's a big change. Now, granted, sometimes you go to a seminar and or a class or something like that, and you learn some techniques in it, completely changes your game. But I feel like those are probably fewer than often, right? Most of the time you get a couple little details that you can take home with you. And it would be better to focus on less to get more from the seminar rather than trying to focus on everything. And then, you can't really retain anything or execute anything when you get back to the gym.
For example, Bernardo, when he showed that pressure passing, it was the placement and the pressure he was able to apply. I mean, he had some little basic tweaks of where to put your pressure and how to do it. And it felt totally different, from your everyday person to him doing it. Even somebody his size. I mean, he could so much more pressure that he could place and you could feel the difference. So it's like the people that do these seminars are in a way like they are specialists in this thing. Like they're very, very high level at this one thing. So if you can get a piece of that, it's going to really expand. Maybe that position that you've had in the past that was kind of okay, you can make it to one of your go-tos and one of your go-to movements.
Yeah, and I think it really just when it comes down to it, that's one of the big problems I have when I teach seminars is trying to narrow it down, because it's like, okay, if I've got 2 or 3 hours with these people, I can't possibly show them everything that I know from these positions, right? I got to get them started. And so it's like, what is the best, the bones of it, the best handful of movements that I could give them that could then lead to something good, right? Because again, it's like, I'm not going to be able to give you everything, but what are like maybe the fundamental movements that I think are like the the foundation of these positions or whatever it is, and then give them that. And that's what I try to do a lot of times, because it's just so hard to because again, like you said, you get excited. Like, oh, I know this next thing and this next thing, this next thing. And then before you know it, you've bombarded someone with so much information that they haven't had time to play around with anything. Because you think how long it probably took you to gain the information that you're sharing with people. Probably took you like years upon year upon year, right? And so then trying to condense that down into a couple hours, it's just not going to happen. So you have to just kind of give people a nibble to get them started. A great example, it honestly didn't even come from a seminar, but my half guard was changed in a big way from a class where my coach at the time, Hanato Tavares, he was coming in town and he was doing a seminar on Saturday. And then he was just teaching a class on Friday, just teaching a regular half guard class with a few techniques. He taught like 2 or 3 techniques during this class, and they were pretty simple, but that basic, like the guts of that, like started off my half guard game. And I started alternate and everything else, but that was the beginning of it, was just simply, a couple techniques on a Friday class. Sean, when I used to go down to Sean's and train back when I would travel from, Louisville at 6 o'clock in the morning to get down there, I remember down in Nashville. I remember when I would get down there, there was one class where he was doing this Toriando and then X passing, and from standing. And at the time, standing passing was kind of a new thing, in the way that he was showing it. And that stuck with me. I remember just like that X pass, I started drilling that thing and using it over and over and over again when I was rolling or competing and everything else. And so, again, sometimes you get a technique that works its way in, but then it's going to take years and years and years to sort of expand upon this stuff and really make it into something else.
Yeah. I think the difficult part for someone that's running a seminar, it's asked to do a seminar, is like, you want to make people feel like they got their money's worth, right? And some ways less is more. Like if you leave a seminar, like, I learned all this awesome stuff, but I can't apply any of it. But then like, I learned this one thing, like Muhammad came in, showed us a tweak on some just basic collar chokes that we've done forever, and he's do this little tweak. And we started working it. And then everybody started going for collar chokes for a while. Everybody started working that. It almost like, it's like you put some paint on an old wall or something, or like you clean your car or something. You're like, oh, it looks like it's brand new again. And you kind of refreshes things for you, which is, sometimes I think it's great, like not to feel as a student, not to feel like I already know this technique, because you can always find a different spin on it that could completely change it for you, make it more effective.
I agree. Yeah, it's fun getting new details to play around with. And that Muhammad class that he did basically was I took away. I got more excited and actually finished more collar chokes after that. Yeah, just from the tips that he was sharing with that. I think that it's interesting though, because I used to dislike like seminars in a big way, because back in the day, the seminars that I went to originally were like, you would go in and you would just get blasted by techniques. Like, I mean, just tons of stuff. And I remember I'd always leave feeling like I kind of got entertained, but like I didn't walk away with something that was going to like change my game. And so for a long time, I didn't mess with them too much. But one of the things that I was able to do over the years is either purchase or ask them, either way, about doing recordings. And so like having a recording of a seminar, because if I could do that, then I could go back and watch this stuff over and over again, which was really helpful, because there was one seminar that Hanato taught years ago. And I mean, it was one of those things where he taught a lot of stuff in there. It was like he was doing all these really cool passing drills that we were doing. Like the first day was almost all passing drills. We weren't even really doing anything in particular. We're just passing drills. But I remember I was like, these were good passing drills. And luckily we had recorded it. And man, I would go back to those over and over again for years and implement them. And I remember it was like, I would come back and I would see little details that I'd missed before. I'm like, oh, I totally didn't notice his hand was like right there. And I'd have to like make those adjustments and stuff like that. And so, if you ever go to a seminar, if you can get a recording of it, or if that person has like, let's say if you go to a, like for instance, when JT Torres came out to do the seminar, he showed us his particular style of passing. I liked it, but I knew that I didn't really have it down yet. So I went and bought his passing DVD because I was like, series, whatever he's streaming. I didn't buy a DVD. so that, I got that. So this way I could like go back and watch it again and again and again, because repetition is really important. And it's not just like the physical repetition, it's also the mental repetition. I think a lot of times people don't value it as much. And granted, in the end, you have to get on the mats and try it physically, but there is something to like mentally priming yourself to do a movement. So like if it's a movement you're trying to nail down, if you have a video that you can watch again and again and again before you actually try to do it, then that's something to it's useful. Granted, I say this, it depends on how crazy you are. Like I get obsessive about being good at something.
Yeah.
And some people aren't. Some people just they're just completely okay with like just being wherever they're at. But for me, like if I'm trying to hit a technique, I'm on the hunt for that thing and I want to get really good at it. And so I will watch videos repeatedly, like, over and over again.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. And that's kind of, I think at some seminars, I say, don't record. And if they tell you don't record, then don't be a dick and record privately, because people have done that. And then some of the guys get upset that run the seminar. So don't I think it's great to ask them. They're like, hey, maybe you record this thing, or please don't. I mean, I think Gordon got upset about somebody recording. He had asked people not to.
Yeah, but I think the guy was recording like secretly. Really? It wasn't being upfront. Now,
exactly.
I've seen it done where sometimes they won't let you record them, but they'll let you record yourself doing the technique.
Sure.
And then most guys that are out on this, like doing seminars, they probably have a DVD or series or whatever.
Yeah.
On the material. So go ahead and just like get the material, go and buy it. It's one of the things that I do offer at the seminars that I do. I try to offer a recording of whatever we do. So this way, like when people come into the seminar, we'll go through it and then they'll get a recording sent back to them after the seminar is done with. That this way they can then go back to it and they can watch this stuff over and over and over again and, get the most from the seminar. So that's one of the reasons why, like in my seminars, I offer that as an option. Like you can just come to the seminar and train and I'll give you that price. But if you want to pay a little bit extra, I'll give you a recording of the seminar. So this way you can get access to it later.
It's so worth it. I mean, like that's depending on how you study, and you have to study this stuff. Like unless you have it dialed in and it's not terribly, I mean, if it's maybe a couple little tweaks, you could maybe write some notes, but if it's technique you're not familiar with, I mean, having a video version, I remember going to a seminar and then writing in my notebook, writing, oh my God, writing all this stuff. And then it made sense to me for like that day. And then like a week later, I was like, what the hell did I write? Like, I have no idea. Hand here, this, and you're like trying to figure it out. Like, so I think that combining the two, even like I'll sometimes take notes on the videos I'm watching. Like I'll write little notes here and there. Like I'll write like this minute mark, if I'm doing like an instructional, I'll write little notes then. So you can do the same thing at a seminar. Like if you have the recording at the minute mark, you find something, you can kind of write some notes in. Maybe this is something to pay attention to. That's something that's helped me before, kind of combining writing, because I think that helps me, remember things as well.
Yeah. I usually use with note taking, a lot of times I'll take like on the computer, you have like notes, the notepad or Evernote, and I'll use that.
Yeah.
Because this way, like as I'm looking at it, I can access those notes all the time and I can add on to them, and they're easy to have next to the video playing on the computer or the phone.
Yeah, for sure. Well, Chewy, who do you think, like, as far as seminars go, I mean, you've got the gamut of white belts to black belts. Is it beneficial for white belts to go, black belts to go, both? Do you think someone would benefit more than another?
I think anybody can go to a seminar.
Well, like who would benefit the most?
I mean, because the thing is if you go to a seminar, well, it depends on what you mean benefit from the most. Like, I mean, so for instance, a black belt is going to be able to very quickly, like, implement the information and absorb it much faster, and they'll even be able to sift through what's immediately going to work for them and what's not, because they'll be able to look at it and go, yeah, that's not going to work for my game, whatever. White belts, not so much, but again, there's a value in sometimes doing stuff even if you don't know if it's going to work. So for instance, one of the first seminars I went to was a Pablo Popovich seminar back in 2003. I was still very new to jiu-jitsu. Maybe had like a month or two of training in me. And I went to this seminar, and the seminar was on butterfly guard and daily hilo guard. And again, I didn't know how to play full guard yet. So like, I mean, I knew how to do a couple moves from it, but I wasn't good from it. But I remember going to this butterfly sweep or this butterfly seminar and, did the moves, everything else, and tried it. And it didn't really make any difference to my game for the first bit, but about, it may have been like 6 to 8 months later, all of a sudden, man, I started hitting butterfly sweeps every now and then. And it was one of those things where it just kind of like took a little while for me to even understand how to use the position. And so again, at the time, it didn't seem like it had any value to me, but then later on it came into play where all of a sudden I'm using butterfly sweeps, and I had to kind of go back and think about, well, where the hell did I learn all this stuff from? And it was from those seminars I started playing around with back, in 2003. And so you never really know. And that's one of the things. It's sometimes hard to determine like which ones should you go to, because you don't know. Like I went to like classes, like just straight up classes when I'm traveling at someone's gym, and there'll be some brown belt who's like figured out some nifty move that he's showing to his class, and I'm like, bro, that's cool as shit. Let me learn that move. Like, what are you doing? You know what I mean? Like, I'm not above learning from anyone. And so, I've literally gone to like classes where, I wasn't expecting to learn something, and all of a sudden this guy's breaking out something really cool that I've never seen. And so I think that seminars are useful for anyone, because again, all you're really doing is giving yourself more information to work with. Again, you may not use it all, but giving yourself as many tools as possible to choose from that you can then, at least understand that are out there, and which I think is helpful. I remember back in the day, our coach that I started training with had a kind of a philosophy on information, like teaching white belt stuff, that I still follow to this day, where sometimes people act like there's this type of information you shouldn't show white belts, right? Like white belts shouldn't learn how to play certain types of guards or whatever. And, I think that you do people a disservice by doing that, because you're limiting them artificially, where it's like, okay, well, you're limiting them based upon what you think is what they should be doing, which, I mean, there could be some truth to it, right?
Yeah.
But I remember like I'd go to competitions as like a white and blue belt, and we'd be using positions and techniques that other guys weren't using at the time, and because they were still playing around with like just the basic core movements, right? I would use butterfly guard sometimes in a competition. They'd be using, just full guard, that kind of thing. And I think it's good to expose people, even if they're newer, to as much information as possible, because you don't know. Now, there's a point, again, where you get that information overload for sure. But I think the information overload comes more from like internet resources and things like that, rather than in-person resources. Again, because I think that, like if you go to a seminar, for sure, you can go to a seminar and get blasted with techniques and stuff like that, but it's one day, right? And even then, you could probably narrow down one thing you got from the seminar and then just hang on to that. But with the internet, you're blasted with like endless amounts of techniques every single day. And so that can be overwhelming. Like, okay, what to choose from? And so I think that, typically people get more info overload from like I said, like from digital sources and things like that, rather than in-person sources. And so I think that learning from as many teachers as possible, just some of the best stuff that they have on the table is valuable.
Yeah. And as far as like the benefit of in-person, seminars, you kind of touched on, like it's one day, but also the other thing is you're getting like someone actually move you, like you're in a position, they can take your hand and reposition, try this grip. And that you may not see that if you're like, say you're doing an instructional, you may not see the subtleties, or even like they may explain it, but you still can't reproduce it exactly. So I think that like having someone there actually with that keen eye and watching you do these movements and adjusting your grip just a little bit, or modifying how high or low you are on the collar, that stuff's really vital. And I think when you have somebody, maybe usually it's someone you look up to at a seminar, and they have somebody like of that you look up to, and they come in there and they correct you, you're going to probably pay attention to it more. It'll probably get in your brain a little more easily. Like, what are your thoughts on that? I mean, I think like when we teach people, like we move them around, which is one of the best ways. And that's what you did for us as coaches. We did a little coaches course, right? And you're like, show me how to do this if I can't see. Right.
Yeah.
How do you take me here? And you did that. And I've always remembered that. And that's the way I try to teach now.
Well, and it's so helpful, because again, a lot of times when we do jiu-jitsu, we're going off of feeling, right?
Yeah.
Like, I mean, this is why a person who cannot see can grapple just fine, because we're not going off of like visual, like locking in, looking at everything and going, okay, I know what to do. It's a lot of what we go off of is feel. And so like, like for instance, you're really good with a loop choke. How do you know when it's in or it's not in? You just feel it, right? Like, how do I, like when I've got like a choke in, I know it's in just because I feel it. And so it's the same way with like your passing or your sweeps or any technique in jiu-jitsu. When you get into those positions and you do it and you know what it feels like to do it correctly, then basically you're going back to that feeling. And that's what you search for. So basically as coaches, if we can actively put the person into the position so that they know what it feels like to do it correctly, then they have something to start with, right? Because then it's like, okay, then you can let them go back to that and they'll be able to find their way back into that feeling of the position or the technique or whatever it is. And so I think that that's why it's so important to be able to do it physically there with a person who knows how to do it. And as far as like doing it in person, another kind of thing is if you can feel it done to you. Now this isn't always the case because, black belts, as we get older, we can't roll with every single person at every seminar, right? But I remember like with the JT seminar last year, we rolled for about 35, 45 minutes. And I remember during that rolling session, he kept using that passing that he was teaching on Saturday, and he kept putting me out of position. And so I understood the power of it because I felt it. So then the next day he's teaching it, and I'm thinking about how I felt, and I'm like, okay, so this is what he was doing. It was very helpful to have that, like have it done to me, and then being able to feel it, and then being able to see it done and understand how it works. And even at one of my recent seminars, I try to hit everybody with the same arm bar that I've been working on. And then on the next day, I tried to teach it. So this way I can be like, okay, you felt it. Now I'll show it how you do it, and this kind of thing. And so but that all goes back to feeling, that basically that bodily intuition that you get from doing something the correct way. And that's really the benefit of having someone there with you in person versus an instructionals. Instructionals are great and you can still figure it out. But whenever you can have someone that's literally been doing the position for years, they can come in and like take your body and adjust it just a couple of inches, and then boom, you're right where you need to be. That's super valuable.
Yeah, I've seen light bulb moments happen at those seminars. Like people have worked, like we've done certain positions before, we knew certain positions, and then we had a seminar, and you're like, it clicks. Like you have that light bulb. Oh, here it is. This is it. Like this is the adjustment, the micro adjustment. This is the like the variation or the adjustment that I've been looking for or that I've needed, and then it starts to work for you. So I think you could save yourself a lot of time in some ways. You may be going through an instructional over and over, but you go to the in-person seminar and you get that little tweak, and that can actually possibly, ascend your game a little faster.
Absolutely. I mean, and again, it depends on the person that runs the seminar. Because don't get me wrong, there's some crappy seminars out there where the guy's just like, all right, give me my money, I'm out of here. But like, if you go to a good seminar, it's worth its time and its money. And like I said, you're going to save time. I remember one of the seminars we had was with Brandon BMAC, and he was showing the truck position. And I just so happened to use the truck position off of a lot of my guard passing. And he showed some details from the truck position that helped me understand it. Now he was using them, and he was showing like the vaporizer and the all the crotch splitter type stuff. Like he was showing all that stuff, and but I didn't really want to use that. But some of the control aspects of the truck helped me out. So again, it's one of these things where as a jiu-jitsu practitioner, you're always trying to take the information that you can gather from different people, and then you make your own stew with it. You make your own version of all this stuff. And but I remember at that seminar, doing the position, thinking I had it down. And then I asked him, I was like, well, do it to me. And then feeling the difference in the way that he did it and how tight it was. And then realizing, oh, there was some space that I was giving. So I had to make some adjustments, So again, the power of actually having it done to you, feeling it, and being able to then replicate it yourself.
Yeah. That's a great thing. Cause you can just feel the effectiveness of it when you do it masterfully. When you do it in that high level, and it's fun. Like I don't think Bernardo showed us the omoplata, but I think he was like omoplata, like doing the omoplata. He
omoplated all of us. He didn't get me into omoplata. He got me in something else. But he omoplated everyone else. I think at that private training session that we had on Friday.
Yeah, he was going for it. I was like, all right. we all know what he's going for, and he's like, I couldn't stop it. I was like, this is
Yeah.
terrible, but it was just awesome because he's got like my omoplata. I saw his he's got an instructional, and I learned a lot from that. It was just like you can really hit it from so many different areas. Chewy, what about like choosing a seminar? If you're a bottom guy that likes to play on bottom or on top, would you necessarily go for that or go for something that you're not good at? Like, what do you think as far as picking a seminar goes?
I mean, well, and again, that's personal preference. Like, what do you want to work on? I think it's powerful if you can either go first off, go to someone that if you ever if you've watched a video of someone online and you enjoy the way that they teach, that would be a good one because then you might be because we all teach differently, but being able to learn from someone that you feel like you connect with pretty easily and you learn from easily, that would be good. Finding someone with a body type that might be similar to yours could always be beneficial because then it's like, okay, they've got a similar body, so that could work with you. Or you can even start to move into like, all right, I need to work on other areas of my game and finding someone that's working on a position that's not your best. I mean, it really depends on where you are currently. And again, that's a part of self-reflection. It's one of the sort of the negative sides of say like social media and stuff is because people can easily just kind of tune out, with whatever's going on with them personally, right? Both if they're training or their own headspace and mindset, right? You can easily just tune out of everything, and you got to kind of like tune in on what's going on. And so you need to be sort of thoughtful of like, well, where's my game at? And again, you might be a white belt, so maybe you don't have some great insights, but you can easily think about, I'm getting smashed from the bottom. Well, then that's where you need to work, right? Or, man, I cannot pass the guard to save my life. Well, then that's probably where you need to work. Or, I have trouble holding people down. Whenever I roll with these wrestlers, I sweep them, and every time I sweep them, they get right back up. Well, then that's telling you lack pressure on top, and you need to learn how to apply it. So, you don't have to be some like Jiu-Jitsu wizard sorcerer to like have some insights. You can just say, what am I feeling? What am I feeling when I'm training? And just be mindful of that, because that can a lot of time give you a good indicator of maybe where you should work or at least put some attention towards.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And another thing on choosing seminars, I think people will some naturally put a lot of stock in how good of a competitor someone is.
Mm-hmm.
That doesn't always correlate to how well they're going to instruct.
Nope.
I think, Brandon, we talk about Brandon, and Brandon's competed and stuff, and he's not like won world titles, but he's one of the best teachers I've ever been around. And I think like that says a lot. He's such, look at John Donaher, never really did anything on the competition scene, but a great instructor.
Sure.
Like, do you put a lot of stock as far as like, choosing seminars into, I mean, it's important, I guess, but like for someone that's looking for a seminar, do you put a lot of stock in, the name of the person?
Not necessarily. I mean, granted, yeah, because I'd like to know who they are. If like some random guy I've never heard of is running a seminar, I'm probably not going to go because I don't know, like, who is he? Who is this person? But if I know of them and maybe they produce some good students or they've done something, well, then there's always other things. Like obviously John Donaher teaches a seminar. I mean, he's produced some really solid competitors and some solid students, right? And he has some really good insights that he's produced, and but at the same time, I've been to seminars where, again, guys that people probably would have never heard of or probably haven't heard of, and the seminars are pretty good, some good techniques, and I picked some stuff up from them. Like I said, I picked up stuff from like brown belts at random gyms that I'm stopping at, so you just never know. But as far as it being like, I personally don't put a ton of stock in. Like I put stock in it; it means something for sure, but like I don't lose my marbles over someone saying like, hey, today's seminar is taught by 3-time world champion, whatever. I mean, it's cool and it's definitely respectful. It's definitely really impressive as an athlete's perspective for them to be there. But as far as them teaching a seminar, it's not going to like make me go crazy of I got to do this. You know what I mean? So because again, that's an athletic thing. It's a selfish thing to be a competitor. It really is. And so, which is not a bad thing. You have to be.
You have to be, right.
And so, I've seen people that were competitors that were phenomenal teachers. I mean, absolutely amazing. Their understanding of how everything worked. I've gone to seminars with competitors that were absolutely awful seminars where, they tried to explain things and I just didn't really feel like they connected and they weren't very entertaining. And really, here's what it comes down to. Do they even care that they're there? Right. Because I've been to seminars with like good competitors and well-known people that they just seemed like they were just going through the motions. They weren't really that excited. They were there, it was just kind of like, all right, we're here. I'm going to get my paycheck and do this thing. Right. Which I understand. You got to make your money and stuff, whatever. But then I've gone to seminars where guys of all different levels and skills and everything else were like pumped to be there. And you could feel that energy coming through them. And it was very exciting. Like you're talking about Brandon, yeah, he hasn't won like a world championship or whatever, but like he has great explanations of jiu-jitsu, and the seminars themselves are very entertaining, yes. Right? Like, and they keep you in them. I mean, I went to a Dean Lister seminar, and Dean Lister seminar was very entertaining, right? I learned a couple of solid moves that I was able to play with, but everything was very entertaining. He was engaged with the people. It wasn't just like, all right, guys, I'm here. Here's your move. Go practice amongst yourselves. Leave me alone. Like, it's like he was telling stories the whole time and like cutting up, and it was very engaging, And so again, I think it's always different. I think if you go to seminars, every experience can be a little different, but I don't necessarily care that the person's like a bazillion time champion or anything like that. It's a cool thing to have on the resume, 100%. But it doesn't mean that they're somehow the best teacher that's walked the planet,
Yeah. Well, you're a storyteller. So I think that someone has a seminar that is good at storytelling is going to appeal to you. It appeals kind of to your personality, your interests, because like that's a big part of what you do anyways. Like, the analogies and sharing these concepts. I think sometimes with the story comes like an understanding or.
Well, that's humans.
Yeah.
I mean, humans, before we had writing, we had stories, right? Like you think of like the Iliad and, the Odyssey and stuff like that, right? These were oral traditions for a long time. And then eventually they wrote them down, and stories themselves. Like, you look at the Bible, and a lot of the Bible is stories and parables that then transmit messages. You have Aesop's fables, right? And like the tortoise and the hare, and these different metaphors and analogies and these different meanings that are transmitted through stories that connect to us because they soften us. They soften us to allow the ideas to like seep into it. Because when you tell a story, if you tell it in a way where it allows the person to come to the realization themselves, or at least the idea themselves, then it's a much more powerful thing than just telling someone to do something. And so if you can share like some anecdotes or stories along the way, it's not only engaging, entertaining, but it helps people. And a lot of times, like I'll say it like this, do you know what the 10 Commandments are? I'll ask you. Do you?
Me? I know most of them probably. I could probably rattle them off eventually if I think about it.
Like, do you think like just right off the top of your head right now you can give me the 10 Commandments?
Probably not. Probably give you 5, 6.
Right. Like, because they get a little like, come on, man, I can't remember this one. But you can tell me the basic storyline of David and Goliath and probably Noah's Ark, right? Sure, of course. You can tell me stories. And so a lot of times if you can, sort of nestle everything into that, it helps even for remembering. And so that's kind of a thing. So, not only is it like how I am a storyteller for sure, but not only is it something that like I connect with, but I think most people connect with stories. I mean, this is why, TV and everything is all stories.
Yeah, you relate. Yeah, I think it gives you just a deeper level maybe of understanding, or you build like a relationship with that. How did this technique come about? Or if somebody's like, I was in this, it saved me from losing the world title or something like that. Even just adding that to the concept, can really like, oh my gosh, this is a really powerful thing. So yeah, I think storytelling in that way specifically on how it's worked literally in jiu-jitsu, and then also kind of comparing it to, like you said, some type of fable or some type of like life experience, that can also kind of be beneficial and even like building a rapport, building a connection with someone.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's important.
What's like what's a Chewy seminar like? So you're doing a seminar in Florida. Like when you get
Mhm.
asked to do a seminar, do people like request certain things, or do you already have stuff going on in your mind? And what's kind of like the setup? You kind of gave us a little bit, but give us more of a setup if somebody's ever interested in doing a seminar with you.
Okay, so if someone wants to do a seminar, I'll ask them. I'll give them a list of things to kind of choose from, depending on what I've got going on, right? And if they have, I'll say like, do you guys want to do the following? And I'll like, well, what would you like from this list? And if there's not something here that you would like to, let me know, and we'll see what we can work out. But we'll choose from that list, and then from there, typically we do a 2-day seminar. Not always. Sometimes it's just one, but a lot of times we do a 2-day seminar. First day is a open mat and a Q&A, just a chance to hang out, roll a little bit, chat with each other, that kind of stuff. Then the second day is the seminar, where we do a seminar, and it'll typically last, your normal 2 to 3 hours or whatever, and that whole thing. And then if it is able, if we're able to, we'll do a dinner afterwards, where people can kind of hang out, have dinner, chat. And again, I'm trying to do something that was a little bit more involved in so this way, something that I would have liked to gone to, because, I figure for a lot of these people, they've watched me on videos and things like that. So you probably listen to my big mouth talk a bunch. You might want to chat with me about something, like you might want to like hang out a little bit. So we got Friday, we do that, and then we'll do a little roll in open mat, and we'll train on Saturday, and then we have dinner, and then this way you get a chance to actually maybe hang out a little bit and that kind of thing, which is I think it's fun. It's also fun for me as a person to be able to sort of complete the cycle of communication, because a lot of times with the videos and everything else, it's me speaking, me talking, me doing something, and then just like on the podcast, they're listening to us talk. Well, then they get to sort of know who I am. Well, then when we meet in person, I get to know who they are a little bit, and we get to chat a little bit, and we get to complete that two-way connection.
Yeah. Do you think there's
so usually it's a 2-day seminar.
Yeah. Do you think there's a value? I mean, like for you personally, or even the students, which I think we kind of hit on, having like the first day just kind of open mat and Q&A. Like, do you feel like that even helps you structure your seminar, or maybe like realize like you might have to teach a certain way?
Maybe a little bit. I can kind of get an idea of where everybody's at,
Yeah.
and so this way I can say, hey, they might actually benefit from this more than this. But it's just a matter of, getting people together. Because again, part of it is it's technical, right? It's a technical thing. You're learning how to do something 100%, but there's also a yearning to connect, right? I mean, this is jiu-jitsu in general. I mean, think about it. Like we come into a place, a lot of times we started jiu-jitsu because of self-defense and fighting and all this stuff. But a lot of times what keeps us is the connection to the people around us, right? So I think there's a desire for me to want to connect with the people that are coming in, and to make that available to them, should they choose to take it. And I think that there's value in that. That's not necessarily it's hard to quantify or make tangible, because you're talking about a connection to human beings, and I don't know how you quantify that. But I think that there's value to that, where if someone walks away and they were like, that was a great experience,
Yes.
right? Like, for instance, if you go to, I don't know if it's still true, but at one point, Disney used to make more money per person than Las Vegas did. Right. So like in Disneyland or whatever, Disney World, when people would go in there, they would make more money per person that walked in there than friggin' Las Vegas. It's insane, isn't it? Right? Because you think Las Vegas is basically like designed to be just a money suck, and so is Disney, right? The Disney World is like it's designed to be it's a money suck. That's why they gave like the little bands where you can just swipe them under and it'll just deduct the money from the account, right? Give those to your kids, and they're just like ding 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 ding, like.
That's so funny.
But so they're making tons of money, but yet people go back because they feel like they had a good experience. Right now, I'm sure someone had a bad experience at Disney, but a lot of times people go back, and they'll go back multiple times throughout their lives because they had a good experience. And so again, there is a thing where, okay, what did I get for my time? Well, you got these cool techniques and everything else. And then you also got a good experience, and a good experience is worth something, I think. And so that's what I'm trying to always improve is, along with the the technique stuff, the technical stuff, the moves that you can walk away with. I want to make it a worthwhile experience for people that are coming in there, so they have a good time.
Yeah. No, that makes perfect sense. Even, just like you feel like you got value for your money, value for your time, like a connection, you got a type of connection. Like people might think they have like a deeper connection to you or a better understanding of who you are and what you do and maybe why you do it. And I think that when people go to your seminars, I mean, they see you on the internet and stuff, and they see but actually being able to connect with you in that way, I think it can mean a lot to people. They feel like they build some kind of relationship with you in a way, which I think is what we're all trying to do, over the social media stuff and YouTube. It's like part of it, is building a connection. And I think you can get that through a seminar as well. You feel like, oh, I'm like a fan of this person more now, or I connect. I might be more interested in what they do down the line. So I think it's just a great way, I think, to get better experience out of it, like you said.
Yeah, I mean, like the other day, I was training up in my buddy's gym in Fort Lauderdale, and I was talking to one of the guys, Ed, who he's bought one of my half guard series.
Yeah.
And he was like, he goes, man, I use these competitions, and I just wanted to get some adjustments from you on it. So I looked at the way that he was doing the sweeps and the entries into it, and gave him a couple of adjustments, in person. So he's already he's studied them in the series, right? And then it's like, all right, now I'm going to try to actually have the dude, help me out with them, right?
Yeah.
And then afterwards, he was kind of telling me about listening to the podcast and how much it's made a positive impact on him and everything else. And then there was another guy there who jokingly, because we were rolling, and in the middle of rolling, we're like messing with each other, like kind of not talking trash, but like joking. Right.
Yeah.
And, afterwards, I remember like the last day I was there, he was like, thanks for not going Hollywood, so, cause again, people don't know, they haven't actually met you. But that's what I'm saying. That's why it's cool to complete that cycle of connection or communication with people, where it's like, okay, you guys have seen me. You've heard me. Now I get to hear you and talk with you and communicate with you in person. And it's a neat thing. And so, yeah, it's a cool thing to connect with people. And again, at the end of the day, for me, that's one of the reasons why I like jiu-jitsu so much, is that connection to the people that I interact with, both in the gym every single day with the students. I mean, gosh, I feel blessed that I get to go in and have a place where the people are so cool. I mean, like we have such a cool group of people to be around, and that's such a, especially in today's society where, people are oftentimes so divided, coming to the gym and everybody's kind of cool. There's not like some great thing where there's not like a tension where we dislike one another because so-and-so's a Christian and this guy's an atheist, or, so-and-so's a Democrat and this guy's a Republican. No, we don't care. We're training, and it's the same thing. You go into a gym, you immediately connect with people, and sure, there's going to be, if we were all to sit down and like line out all of our beliefs and ideas, we would, vehemently disagree on a lot of stuff, but because we're all training together, we really don't care, and so I think that's one of the cool parts about jiu-jitsu. And so that's one of the fun parts about going to seminars, is getting to connect with some new people that I haven't met that, we're excited to be there. And that's that,
Awesome. Yeah. I mean, that makes sense. You enjoy like sometimes getting to know people and their path, like having like JT, for example, like just learning about how he traveled, so much, and the people around him that helped bring him up. It was very cool. And Bernardo is the same, talking to him about like coming from Brazil and not really having much, just having this dream of jiu-jitsu and coming from a place where nobody was really high level where he was from. So he kind of put all your eggs in one basket in a way. And they did it in a time where it really was not the norm. It's becoming more common now. But when they were doing it, it's like, you're making a career out of this thing. It's not very, it's not very typical, but for some of these athletes now, that this is part of their, it's like you're a touring artist, like you're a musician, you're touring and like you're selling your, it's like a great promotional tool for you. I mean, you're getting fans all over the place too, by going doing seminars. And I think there's so much value to the person doing the seminar. Like, I'm sure you get a ton out of running a seminar for people, because it's fulfilling. You get something back. Like, you get people really appreciative of what you're doing.
Well, it's cool as a human being.
Yes.
Right. To put something out there, to say, you know what, like let's talk about the video. So like the videos, you put out videos and people are like, you know what, this connects with me enough. I enjoy this enough. I like this. And you get something going, right? That feels good. When you do a seminar, like so tomorrow, the seminar, I think we capped it, and both the two seminars that we've had, we both sold out. You know, and so it's cool to be able to say like we had a number that we set, and again, the number being sold out is because of mat space, right?
Yeah.
And so we set those numbers, and they're both sold out. And it's cool to be able to put something out there and say, man, like people that I have not met before have gotten some value out of the stuff that I've put out, that they want to go and come to this thing, right? That's kind of a cool thing as a human being, to be able to put out information to the ether, and then be able to connect with people. And I think it's one of the beautiful parts about the internet, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's all kinds of negative stuff, but man, it's so beautiful in some ways because you can connect with people and you can help people out and you can share information in a way that's never been possible before. And, you know, I think that, again, if you come from a genuine place of wanting to help people out, then it works, right? Like some people, you'll see stuff where I've getting messages from people, dude. It's crazy. I'll get messages from people who are like, I got a message from a young blue belt who was like, hey man, I'm a young up and comer, and you should probably, if you're basically telling me if I was intelligent, I should sponsor him, right? Like whatever. I'm like, bro, like there's a million blue belts, like, you know, like, I mean, and if you maybe came about it a different way, that might be something interesting to do, right? But like you're gonna come at me like that. I'm like, dude, I don't want anything to do with you, you know? And I think that a lot of times people forget, like, that's the whole way it should work, is right. Like if you give out and help if you try to scratch someone else's back, right, then there'll be more, they'll have a proclivity to do that for you. And so by putting out information to help other people, then when they, like, you know, you run a seminar, they're like, you know what, this guy's helped me out so much, I want to see what he's got in person, right?
Mm-hmm.
It just makes sense, you know. And likewise, if you try to take care of the people in one way or the other, they'll try to do the same to you one way or the other, you know. And so I think that it's just a neat thing to be able to put something out there and people actually connect with it and want to take advantage of it. But yeah, that's a tip for any of the, I get messages from people that are always wanting to create content and everything else, and like get to, you know, stand out. Well, that's a first thing to start with, is like, make sure that when you're doing it, you're coming from a genuine place of actually wanting to help people, rather than like just be cool, right? Like just to be YouTube famous or some shit. Like, actually try to help the people out that are going to watch your videos or listen to your content or whatever it is that they're going to do. So this way, when they come away from something, what do they get for it? Right? Like you and me both, like every time we do an episode, there's always a question that I talk about. There's a question that we have to ask ourselves before we do that episode, because otherwise we can't do it. You know, again, that always has to come first. So,
yeah. What do you learn from? What do you get from it too? Like, what's one tangible piece you can take from, you know, any kind of content you share or any kind of stuff you produce? So it's helpful. That's what keeps people coming back and listening and you know, coming and attending your seminars. So.
All right, guys. So hopefully that podcast is helpful to you as far as, you know, choosing a seminar coming up. If you have a particular seminar related question that we did not answer, you can shoot us a message over on the Jiu-Jitsu podcast Instagram. You know, because if you're trying to do something for, like, if you would like to contribute to the Jiu-Jitsu podcast as far as a question or whatever, obviously Patreon listeners, they get sort of first crack or get a preferential treatment. But if you are like on Instagram and you want to like send in a question or something, do it to the Jiu-Jitsu podcast Instagram. Or if you want to reply to this and comment on the Jiu-Jitsu podcast YouTube channel, those will be chosen because Eugene actually runs those two things. And, you know, if you send it to me, I might get to it, but there's also a chance it may get like sort of drowned by other messages. So if you're trying to like actually do that, go ahead and follow the Jiu-Jitsu podcast Instagram and YouTube channel, and you can comment either under the videos or send a DM that way. But otherwise, hopefully this is helpful to just kind of give you some ideas about seminars. Because again, I know that I've heard people say that they don't like seminars, or like they don't find them useful, whereas other people do get something from them. And hopefully this will just give you a couple ideas on how to make the most of them if you decide to go to one, or how to choose one. And again, thanks to our sponsor, Charlotte's Web. You can check them out at charlottesweb.com. Promo code is Jiu-Jitsu, 15% on the order. Again, I'm a big fan of the products. We've had them with us for a couple of years for that reason. It's the stuff that I use. Again, can't say enough good stuff about it. Check them out. And again, if you do, just try it out for a month, see what you feel from the product. Big thanks to Epic Roll at epicrollbjj.com. Promo code again is Jiu-Jitsu. Save 15% on the order. You can go there and you can check out all his gear, shirts, everything, all Jiu-Jitsu related. You can go through it and see what you like. And again, if you want to buy something, you save a little bit of money that way. Submission Nutrition at submissionnutrition.com. Promo code is Jiu-Jitsu, 15% off. And then again, if you want to check out the actually, before we do this, I'll just say this again. We're throwing out these different ending things. And again, if you're like, I don't really want to purchase anything right now, money's tight or whatever, or, whatever your reasons may be, you can always support the podcast by going to wherever you listen to the podcast, either following or subscribing or leaving a positive review. That sort of stuff helps us out a lot. Eugene sent me a message and we're moving on up the rankings on like iTunes or whatever, which is kind of neat. So again, that kind of stuff helps us. It helps us get found. And so if you guys are enjoying the podcast and you want to help old Chewy out and help Eugene out, you can do that by doing those things, and it costs you nothing, maybe like 2 minutes worth of work, to put a little star there or press a follow button. But otherwise, you can check out the Patreon at patreon.com/the Jiu-Jitsu podcast. And then again, you can join my email list, my Chew Crew email list at jiujitsu.net and clicking on the free ebook button. And that is a wrap, guys. So hopefully next week I'll be back in studio with great sound quality, and I'll be able to pester Eugene throughout the whole podcast.